Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Peridiam, and is the off-season over yet? No? Okay. Well, here's another video. Part 2 of the most ingenious moves made by Survivor winners. In case you missed it, part 1 covers 5 other moves. Feel free to check that out. While it isn't required viewing for this video, it is required if you're going to be calling me out in the comments section for missing your favorite move. That being said, out of the box, creative, unique, original, lots of words to describe the ingenuity many Survivor winners have displayed over the past several decades. To celebrate the many winners in Survivor while they are off doing whatever it is they do, here are several more moves to add to this ever-expanding list.
Fabio, what are you doing right now?
I'm getting on the pedestal, Joe.
What were you doing?
Using the restroom.
In the pool.
The water's so dirty anyways, look at it. I mean,
I gotta concentrate, okay? You can't concentrate when you gotta pee.
In part 1, I highlighted Tony Vlachos with a tease that it wouldn't be the last time we saw of him. And guess what? A wild Tony has appeared. Indeed, Tony gets another mention. The mad, ingenious genius that he is, what can I say that hasn't already been translated into llama? Let me take you back to episode 5 of Survivor Cagayan, where we had just seen Cliff get blindsided by Tony and Trish, only to then have Lindsay quit at the beginning of the episode in a fit of questionable rage. Tony's tribe is now down to 5 members, and they head off to the reward challenge. The challenge is pretty cool. It's this duel arena where you have to knock your opponent's idol off of its perch. Tony's tribe wins, and the reward is the ability to send 2 members to the opposing tribe's camp to raid it for certain items. So of course, Tony's tribe sends over Tony and Wu, the final 2, because spoilers. Tony and Wu pick the items to take from the new Apari tribe, but they also actually get a hidden second note to the hidden immunity idol. They read the clue and they realize that it's actually a clue for an idol at their own camp at Solana. Immediately, and this is the ingenuity of it all, Tony gets a crazy idea to set up the opposing tribe and cause them to internally self-destruct. He basically wants to capitalize on the ability to be at the opposing tribe's camp in the pre-merge, which doesn't happen very often. Tony takes the clue that doesn't help anyone on the opposing tribe, and he makes up a new rule that they themselves can't even verify. He says he gets to give this clue to one of the Apari tribe members, and he picks Jeremiah. Because Jeremiah is, I guess, their strongest member, and why not get the tribe to target him?
So I gave him the clue. Meanwhile, I'm sure it was going through everybody's mind at the tribe, like, why is Jeremiah getting this clue? What's going on? So they already probably, their wheels are spinning, like, uh-oh, he's gonna go find the idol, blah, 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 blah.
Tony then gives this useless Solana clue to Jeremiah, who immediately recognizes it to be useless as it's for the Solana beach, the beauty beach, the beach that he used to be on before the switch. He realizes he's being set up to be targeted, and he tries to tell the rest of this tribe what's going on, but apparently it didn't matter as both Tasha and Spencer thought Jeremiah was lying to them. I mean, the clue looked real. Why wouldn't it be real, Jeremiah? This move didn't ultimately get Jeremiah voted out, but it did shift a lot of attention to him, all at the cost of a few extra seconds to pull a fast one. Tony even takes the clue back from Jeremiah, making up another rule in the process to prevent Jeremiah from showing evidence to the rest of his tribe. This is absolutely genius. Even if it didn't make a huge difference, it was a clever move in the pre-merge to cause paranoia and sow seeds of distrust, which clearly worked as we saw in the episode. And for that, I tip my hat.
Tony and Wu decide to give Jeremiah a clue to a hidden immunity idol. So honestly, I think they're sending a signal to Jeremiah that we want to work with you.
Jeremiah's story is tough to buy. What I think is that Jeremiah got a new clue. It was wrapped, it was a new clue, it looked like a real clue, and it looked like a clue to an idol that's actually here. He's not fooling anyone.
Ding, 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 this is a clue to an idol. Told them that this letter told us we get to elect one person from their tribe to give them a clue to an idol. We called Jeremiah out there, so we put a big illuminating target on his back.
Subtlety may just be the name of the game and the game changer with these moves, as it's definitely going to be a recurring theme with the rest of them. Maybe not as subtle of a move as when Tony revealed to his tribe he was actually a cop and not a construction worker, but what about on the flip side? almost Tony's protege from another bay. I am talking about the good cop turned criminal Sarah Lucina in Survivor Game Changers, who, perhaps learning from Tony's game, pulled a fast one on Cirie at the final 7. Okay, it needs to be said, Sarah actually didn't pull a fast one here. If anything, it was more of a slow, methodical move to ensure that Cirie could trust her. Sarah played the heck out of Survivor Game Changers. No doubt we saw a lot of it, but some things we didn't see were how she would give up material goods in exchange for trust, such as bracelets or rings, or advantages. At the final 7 of Survivor Game Changers, Sarah had a steal a vote advantage in her back pocket and she wanted Aubrey out. One of her closer allies, Cirie, wanted Ty out. Through a lot of confusion, backtalk, crossed wires, and the like, it turned out that Cirie believed Ty was gunning for Sarah, when in truth, Ty and Sarah were actually pretty solid. Sarah didn't want Ty out, I don't think Ty wanted Sarah out, and she knew that he was good even if Cirie didn't. Sarah realized relying on her word to get people to believe her was a fruitless endeavor. In a game all about lying where she was going to play ruthlessly, her word could only get her so far. But what could extend that trust was the inventory of items she had on her. One of these was that steal a vote advantage, to which she decided to give to Cirie as a token of trust. She wanted Cirie to believe her that Ty was good and that Aubrey absolutely needed to go. Sarah's ingenuity here was twofold. She utilized her advantage to keep Cirie on her side, while also retaining the advantage no matter what circumstances followed later that night at Tribal Council.
I will give you my advantage, because if I get voted out, then at least you got it. Okay.
So I'm gonna give Cirie the advantage of steal a vote to hold on to. This way, if this doesn't scream loyal, I don't know what does.
Sarah knew the advantage, it couldn't be transferred or stolen from her, so when she gave Cirie the advantage, she knew it was never Cirie's to play. That said, she also never expected Cirie to play it, let alone on Sarah of all people. But I gotta say, what happened next was low-key amusing. At the Tribal Council, as we all remember, Cirie tried to play this advantage that Sarah gave her on Sarah to steal Sarah's vote, all in the name of protecting Sarah so she could vote out Ty. Sarah was baffled that Cirie would pull that off, but she also knew that this was a possibility, particularly because she gave Cirie the advantage right before they went to Tribal Council, giving Cirie no time to read the fine print at the bottom. I suppose if Sarah had given Cirie more time to read the advantage, there's a very good chance that none of this happens. Sarah then decided to turn the tables and take out Michaela instead of Aubrey, given Michaela didn't really factor into Sarah's final 3 plans anyway, and Brad and Troyzen were completely on board with it, and also Michaela was pretty competent in challenges. Sarah knew that she was safe at the final 6 due to having the legacy advantage, as well as having numbers with Brad and Troy. It all but guaranteed her at least final 4. The move of giving up the advantage as a temporary bout of leverage was unique, and it's demonstrated how the game of Survivor has changed over the years as more and more advantages are put into play. Advantage management is absolutely a new addition to the game, and rightfully knowing how to handle them correctly is rather vital.
So she can't give it to me.
She can give it to you as a sign of trust, but she can't give it to you to use. Sarah is the only person who can use that advantage.
Can I have that?
But if Sarah's off-screen antics were only a part of a move on this list, what if we went one step further and discussed a move not at all shown on screen whatsoever? Amazingly, this can actually apply to the next 2 moves on this list, so let's just get right into it. Let's kick off this invisible doubleheader with one move from the Queen P of Survivor, Parvati Shallow, in Survivor Micronesia, Fans versus Favorites. It's the Final 5, the notorious, infamous Final 5, where Eric gave up his immunity necklace to gain some clout from the girls, and webs are ever so subtle being weaved from the Black Widow Brigade. The girls all realize that Eric is the biggest threat to them and he has to go now at this Final 5, but what happens if he wins immunity? I wonder. Well, before Eric does what he does, it's important to note that Cirie, Parvati, and Amanda were going to have Natalie be the next to go in the event that Eric doesn't do what he does. But what if Natalie found the idol at Exile Island? What if Natalie went to Exile Island in this episode, found the idol, Eric is immune and Natalie has an idol, that's not good. To prevent this, Amanda sunk her fangs deep into Eric, ensuring he would send anyone but Natalie to Exile Island. After Eric won the reward challenge and was able to choose who to send, he did in fact listen to Amanda and send Parvati, the person I think he had the weakest relationship with of the 4 women. So Parvati gets sent to Exile Island, a major gift from Eric, and what we see in the episode is her basically just chilling. She's gonna get a tan, maybe hunt for the idol. Does it even matter?
Maybe look for the idol if I want to. If I don't want to, I don't have to. Because the reason for me being here is just to prevent Natalie and Eric from getting a chance at getting the idol. So it doesn't really matter if I find the idol or not.
For many of you, you may have watched this scene, or you may be screaming at your screen or rolling your eyes. Of course it matters. You're at the final 5, Parvati, the last time idols can be played. Why not give yourself any advantage you possibly can? Especially when you're the only one with the chance to even have the idol. Only one person is going to Exile Island in the first place. Well now, Mr. Face Value, hold on one second. What we didn't see is that Parvati actually did search for the idol, and she found it. And instead of taking it back to camp, she hid it back on the beach. She left the hidden immunity idol out of her possession on Exile Island. Some say to this day it is still growing and one day will mature into a real effing stick. Parvati went back to camp without that idol in her bag because that is just hashtag ingenuity at its finest. No, wait, that's a long tag. How about hashtag winning? Here's the deal. 2 big reasons why Parvati made this crazy move to leave the idol back at Exile. First, Parv was Natalie's #1 ally. If Parvati came back to camp with the idol in her bag, which everyone would want to know, likely having her empty her bag upon returning just the same as Amanda did in the previous episode, it was going to be a huge detriment socially to Parvati's game. Nat would expect the idol to be used on her, or at least given to her, keeping her safe in the event that Eric had won immunity. No bueno for Parv, given she wanted Natalie out next and on the jury as a vote for her in the event that Eric was immune. If she burns Nat that bad, that may not go over very well. Second, she didn't need the idol. She didn't need to take the risk of suffering the consequences of having the idol discovered in her possession. She was airtight between Serena and Amanda, the middle woman of that bunch, as well as the closest with Natalie. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody was targeting Parvati except Eric, who clearly held no power at all. If Eric never gives up his immunity, Natalie goes, yeah. But if Natalie has an idol, does Eric even give up his immunity? Maybe, maybe not. But what mattered most is that Parv wanted Natalie out eventually, and she didn't want to burn her on the way to the jury. Parv's biggest danger with that idol wasn't protecting her allies, it was protecting her jury votes, as she never needed the idol to get her to the next round. Basically, that's a lot of words to say. Passing on the idol at the final 5, modern Survivor could never, but Parvati could, and she did, and it was ingenious.
That sucks that he won. God. If he didn't have that necklace, he'd be gone.
I wonder if he would give Nat his necklace. Probably not, huh?
You know what? Speaking of being immune, let's go off screen one more time. We're still in the doubleheader for arguably the first major flip to ever occur in Survivor history. Episode 4, Survivor, the Australian Outback. Wait, what? A random pre-merge episode from season 2? When I said speaking of immunity, I meant it. Back then, the tiebreaker for tie votes was not going to rocks. It was relying on past votes. And that plays in heavily into the next move that I'm about to talk about when the Ogakor tribe, with Tina, Jerry, Colby, to name a few, went to tribal council when they were reduced to only 6 members by episode 4. This move was in fact pulled off by Tina Wesson, and it was so subtle that it actually changed the rules of the game, or at least production, from there on out. Or so I've heard. At this point in the season, Ogakor had 6 members left, and there was an alliance of 5 within the 6. Tina, Colby, Jerry, Amber, and Mitchell, with Keith on the outs. The easy vote was 5 votes on Keith, but Tina knew she was on the bottom of this 5-person alliance, and if they were to lose again, she was easy pickings. So the plan was to take out Keith, with Keith voting wherever. But Tina needed to gain a better position for the future, and so on the way to tribal council, she spoke with Colby about joining herself and Keith to vote for Mitchell, who wasn't feeling very well. Tina appealed to Colby's sense of keeping the tribe strong, as Keith was an excellent chef and provider, and he wasn't feeling ill, unlike Mitchell. Really, though, Tina just needed Colby to go along for the ride, and any reason was valid.
This, by far, is going to be the toughest council for me, because I don't agree with the order in which the union is voting. Because the person to go tonight is a huge asset and could really be an asset down the road.
Now, I have no idea how long she spoke with Colby, in this interim period, but I do know that the castaways, they don't walk to tribal council like the producers would want you to believe. They actually just get transported there. Whether this transport took 5 minutes or 45 minutes, I can't say, but what I can say is that Colby was convinced to flip on Mitchell at the last second, and he did so when they tied the vote 3-3, meaning it would come down to a tiebreaker. Tina even references this last-minute change of plans when she writes Mitchell's name down that night.
This was not my original intended vote. However, on the way here to Tribal Council, a new scheme was developed. So in the spirit of the Olympics, let the games begin.
Knowing that Mitchell had 1 vote cast against him from the previous tribal council, whereas Keith had 0, Mitchell would automatically leave, and Tina would now be in a power position for the remainder of the pre-merge and eventually this season. Likewise, it's fun to note that players are no longer allowed to talk on their way to tribal, so as to prevent this kind of shenanigans from happening again, but Tina pulling off a massive flip in the most unexpected of places, off camera no less, is pretty amazing. I really can't say I've heard of this concept of talking between the cracks of the show coming up much at all in all of the seasons of the show, sans for maybe Troy, Zan, and Kim in One World, though that's a bit more speculative. Either way, all the praise for Tina and her ingenuity to pull this flip off. And then lastly, for part 2, we get to one of my favorite moves, one of the riskiest moves you may find a winner making when I talk about a move that is definitely not very subtle in its presentation. It is a big move, a really big move. And it's actually even the first of its kind. I am talking about the flashiest move ever made by a winner, at least if my 2017 ranking still holds true. Natalie Anderson from Survivor San Juan del Sur playing her idol for Jacqueline at the final 5 to blindside Missy, Baylor, Keith, and even kind of Jacqueline too. Also the jury. Also me, sitting on the sofa. Natalie blindsides literally everyone in the entire world, and we are all better for it. Now, feel free to go back and watch my first video ever made and note how different I sound, but to set this up, Natalie's ingenuity is top-notch. She is aware of the resume-building big moves quota that juries are oftentimes looking for. She's all about swinging big, so what's not bigger than what she pulls off here? Natalie is in the final 5 with a strong trio of herself, Missy, and Baylor, who are mother and daughter. These 3 want to be the final 3, but Keith is a big physical threat and he is standing in their way. I'm not even joking when I say that. Keith is a big physical threat. He's even beaten Joe from time to time. So, of course, Keith wins immunity at the final 5, which means the next best target, Jacqueline, is out of luck.
One thing's for sure, big moves do win this game, and I feel like I've done moves that haven't been as impactful as I'd like, but it's not about anybody else at this point. I'm just thinking about myself. It's either making a big move today, getting rid of Baylor or Missy, and risking losing it all and not making final 3, or kind of playing it safe and vote out Jacqueline.
Likewise, Natalie has an idol in her possession, and so, hey, even though she's got the votes on her side, she's also guaranteed Final 4 by way of the Final 5 being the last time you can play idols. But what if it wasn't that simple? As we've seen with these past 10 moves, it usually isn't if the winner of the season has anything to say about it. Natalie is clearly positioned very well in this Final 5, and she's aware of that. She's aware that she can beat anyone, but likely Keith in the Final 3, she just needs to get there. While she is definitely sitting in a very safe spot here at the Final 5, she realizes that sitting next to Missy and Baylor at the Final 3 would be very ideal, but sitting next to them at the Final 4 with Keith still in the game, with him potentially winning that immunity challenge, is not ideal. Missy and Baylor wanted to take each other to the Final 3, which means Nat is for sure getting their 2 votes if Keith is immune, meaning she has to rely on Keith nail to force a tiebreaker to save her life, especially given it would be a terrible move for Keith anyway, and I can't entertain the thought that he would actually do that. I think. So, you know what? Let's throw caution to the wind. She makes a power move, the flashiest ever from a winner, and tells Jacqueline to vote for Baylor. That's it. Just do it. Trust her. Everything will work out so long as she does. So, we get to tribal council, and Natalie, of course, she plays her idol for Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? I'm thinking this for Jack.
Okay. Jacqueline does not count. Jacqueline does not count. Jacqueline does not count.
Mic drop. Boom. Wipes out the 3 votes for Jacqueline as she and Jacqueline vote for Baylor, taking Baylor out in the first ever idol play, where the idol holder plays the idol for someone else and negates a majority of the votes. And, of course, wows the jury at the same time. This move is very resourceful. It pulls from many facets of the game. Natalie relies on her situational awareness, her strong bonds with all 3 women to blindside each of them. She assists the underdog in staying alive, all while appealing to the jury's interest of watching entertaining big moves with the limited time they have in front of the players. Only Natalie walks away from this looking golden, which becomes a major feather in her cap when she does reach the final 3 and talks to the jury. As Jeremy says in his speech, Nat balled out. You just gotta give it to her. And if you ask me to put $5 on a future 2-time winner, it might just be her. Anyway, that is gonna be part 2 of this 3-part video series looking at some of the most ingenious moves ever made by Survivor winners. Part 3 is going to be a huge one, essentially 2 parts in one, as I will be talking about 10 more ingenious moves from winners, wrapping up this video series in hopefully spectacular fashion. Let me know what you guys thought about these 5 moves, about the potential moves coming up in part 3. But until next time, my name is Peridiam saying thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to ball out on your way out, and I will see you in the next one once I find the nearest bookie, cause I got $5 to place.
Ew.
That was unfortunate.